Hi guys, my name is Kirsten Renee Levitt and I'm going to be giving you a history class 101 of the legal drug cartel. You may also know this as the pharmaceutical industry. I'm going to be reading this to you because there's just too much information for me to memorize. So bear with me as I read a little bit of history. And it's a very important piece of history, something that we didn't learn in history class. Listen very carefully and maybe some things will actually, there's a fly that keeps getting in the picture, start making sense. We live in a very corrupt world, and it stems from the history I'm going to be sharing with you. Let's go back to a while ago, to 1911, May 15. The Supreme Court of the U.S. finds John Rockefeller and his trust guilty of corruption, illegal business practices, and racketeering. As a result of this decision, the entire Rockefeller Standard Oil Trust, the world's largest corporation of its time, was sentenced to be dismantled. But Rockefeller was already above the Supreme Court and did not care about this decision. In order to disperse public and political pressure on him and other robber barons, Rockefeller uses a trick called philanthropy, whereby the illegal gains from his robber practices in the oil business are used to launch the Rockefeller Foundation. This tax haven was used to strategically take over the healthcare sector in the U.S. The Rockefeller Foundation was the front organization for a new global business venture of Rockefeller and his accomplices. This new venture was called the Pharmaceutical investment business. Donations from the Rockefeller Foundation went only to medical schools and hospitals. These institutions had become missionaries of a new breed of companies, the manufacturers of patented synthetic drugs. This is also the time when the first vitamins were discovered. It soon became clear, however, that these natural molecules had life-saving health benefits and that they were able to prevent many chronic health conditions. The first books appeared with research subsequently abandoned about the health benefits of vitamins. These newly discovered molecules had only one disadvantage. They were non-patentable. Thus, in its first year of existence, the pharmaceutical investment business already faced a mortal threat. Vitamins and other micronutrients promoted as public health programs would prohibit the development of any sizable investment. Business based on patented drugs. The elimination of this unwanted competition from natural micronutrients, therefore, became a question of life and death for the pharmaceutical business. And in 1918, the Rockefeller Foundation uses the Spanish flu epidemic and the media that it already controlled to start a witch hunt on all forms of medicine that were not covered by its patents. Within the next 15 years, all medical schools in the U.S., most hospitals, and the American Medical Association all essentially became pawns on the chessboard of Rockefeller's strategy to subjugate the entire healthcare sector under the monopoly of his pharmaceutical investment business. Disguised as a Mother Teresa, the Rockefeller Foundation was also used to conquer foreign countries and entire continents for the pharmaceutical investment business, just as Rockefeller himself had done a few decades previously with his petrochemical investment business. Fast forward to 1925 on the other side of the Atlantic in Germany. This is a key player here. The first chemical pharmaceutical cartel is founded in order to compete with Rockefeller's quest for control of the global drug market. Led by the German multinationals Bayer, BASF, Hochsch, and IG Farben cartel was founded with a total number of employees surpassing 80,000. That's in 1925. The race for global control was on. November 29, 1929, the Rockefeller cartel, the USA, and the IG Farben cartel in Germany decide to divide the entire globe into interest spheres, the very same crime Rockefeller had been sentenced for 18 years earlier, when his trust had divided up the U.S. into interest zones. 1932 to 33, the IG Farben cartel, equally insatiable, decides no longer to be bound by the 1929 constraints. They support an uprising German politician who promises IG Farben to militarily conquer the world for them. With millions of dollars in election campaign donations, this politician seized power in Germany. turned the German democracy into a dictatorship, and kept his promise to launch his conquest war, a war that soon became known as World War II. In each and every country Hitler's Wehrmacht invaded, the first act was to rob the chemical, petrochemical, and pharmaceutical industries and assign them free of charge to the IV Farben Empire, 1942-1945. In order to cement its global leadership with patented drugs, the IG Farben cartel tests its patented pharmaceutical substances on concentration camp inmates in Auschwitz, Dachau, and many other sites. The fees for conducting these inhumane studies were transferred directly from the bank accounts of Bayer, Host, and BASF to the bank accounts of the SS who operated the concentration camps. 1945. IG Farben's plan to take control of the global oil and drug markets has failed. The U.S. and other Allied forces won World War II. Nevertheless, many U.S. and Allied soldiers had lost their lives during the conflict, and the Allies' reward was little compared to the rewards of others. The corporate shares of the losers, IG Farben from Germany, went to the Rockefeller Trust in the United States, the Rothschilds, and J.P. Morgan of the United Kingdom. 1947, in the Nuremberg War Crimes Tribunal, 24 managers from Bayer, BASF, Host, and other executives of the IG Farben cartel were tried for crimes against humanity. These crimes included leading wars of aggression, instituting slavery, and committing mass murder. In his final pleading, U.S. Chief Prosecutor Telford Taylor summarizes the crimes committed by these corporate criminals with the following words: "Without IG Farben, the Second World War could not have been possible." Amazingly, the real culprits of the death of 60 million people in World War II, the IG Farben executives, received the mildest verdicts. Even those executives directly responsible for the crimes of IG Auschwitz only received a max of 12 years in jail. Surprised you shouldn't be. In 1944, Nelson Rockefeller had already entered the executive branch of the U.S. government. He started off as an Undersecretary of State and ended up a few years later as Special Advisor of President Truman for Special Affairs. In other words, at critical junctures of the 20th century, the Rockefeller interests took direct charge. They decided the post-war shape of the world and the distribution of its wealth. As such, under the influence of the U.S. State Department, the verdicts in Nuremberg against the IG Farben managers can easily be explained. In return for taking over the corporate shares of IG Farben and thereby global control of the oil and drug business, Nelson Rockefeller made sure that the real culprits of World War II were not hanged. In fact, as we shall see, they were needed. In 1949, the Federal Republic of Germany was founded. This was the first time in history that the Constitution and society of an industrialized nation could be planned and modeled as a fortress of the pharmaceutical investment business, a transatlantic outpost of Rockefeller's interest. Within only a few years, the IG Farben managers sentenced in Nuremberg were released from jail and put back into their previous positions as stakeholders of the Rockefeller interest. Fritz Termer, for example, sentenced to 12 years in jail for his crimes in Auschwitz, was back as chairman of the board on Germany's largest pharmaceutical multinational Bayer by 1963. In 1945 to 1949, the role of the Rockefeller brothers was not limited to their taking over the global monopolies of the oil and drug businesses. They also needed to create the political framework for these businesses to thrive. Under their influence, therefore, the United Nations was founded in 1945 in San Francisco to seize political power and control of the post-war world. 3 countries, leading drug export nations, had all the say. The 200 other nations were rendered mere spectators. Founded as organizations to allegedly serve the well-being of the people of the world, the UN's subsidiary organizations such as the World Health Organization and the World Trade Organization soon turned out to be nothing more than the political arms of the global oil and drug interests. In 1963, on behalf of the Rockefeller interests, The government of the Pharmaceutical Banana Republic, Germany, spearheaded one of the most infamous efforts ever made within the United Nations. Under the pretense of consumer protection, it launched a 4-decade-long crusade to outlaw vitamin therapies and other natural, non-patentable health approaches in all member countries of the United Nations. The goal was to simply ban any and all competition for the multi-billion-dollar business with patented drugs. The plan was simple: copy for the entire world what has already been accomplished in America in the 1920s. A monopoly of healthcare for the investment business with patented drugs. Since the marketplace of the pharmaceutical investment business depends upon the continued existence of disease, the drugs it developed were not intended to prevent, cure, or eradicate disease. Thus, the goal of the global strategy was to monopolize health for billions of people, with pills that nearly cover symptoms but hardly ever address the root cause of disease. The deprivation of billions of people from having access to life-saving information about the health benefits of natural health approaches, whilst at the same time establishing a monopoly with largely ineffective and frequently toxic patented drugs, caused disease and death in genocidal proportions. This epidemic of unnecessary disability and death by the pharmaceutical business with disease is unparalleled in history. The real cause of diseases has been deliberately nebulized or even hidden away from millions of people for one purpose, or billions, to feed the insatiable greed of the pharmaceutical business with disease. Guys, this is just a tiny piece of history I'm sharing with you. There's a lot more of corruption and control and deception, and it's on a scale that manipulates the entire world for pharmaceuticals for their own money and greed. And we're being force-fed lies for disease and profits, and it's time it stops. I'm going to be giving you guys a series of videos explaining what's going on and how to change your own life. To keep yourself, to help heal yourself, and then heal your family and help your friends and neighbors. And we can stop this sleeping giant. We can stop their control, and we can stop our diseases. And we can make sure we leave this earth better for our children and grandchildren, and your health is in your hands. Don't rely on a doctor who has been taught something by an industry that is only in a business for profit. Rely on the fact that you can be healthy without synthetic or chemical drugs. You can heal your body, you can heal your life, and I'll help you as much as I can. And I'm not here to steal your hard-earned money. I'm here to change things and help you heal. And I'm sick of seeing sick people everywhere, and to make sure that the corporate pharmaceuticals lose their piece of the pie that they've stolen from us. This was a History Lesson 101 collected from a Dr. Rath, from the Dr. Rath Health Foundation, and it was given to you by me, Kirsten Renee Levitt. Thank you for listening.